Does your life feel like you are running on a treadmill and always exhausted and never really getting anywhere? I totally understand how you feel. That was me for so long. Hi, I am Brooke Carlock. Welcome to Grief Sucks with Brooke Carlock, my YouTube channel. It is a new year here, and this month I'm actually going to be focusing on something a little bit different, but I'm really excited about it because it is something that has helped me kind of hop off of that busyness treadmill and allowed me to kind of get through the fog of the grief that I am having since losing my 10-year-old daughter Libby and my mom and dad and stepmom within a 1.5-year time span. So what I'm going to be talking to you about in the month of January is simplifying and slow living. So what are these things? I'm going to get into it in just a minute, kind of the different things that I'm going to be sharing with you this month. But first I want to talk about why it is important for grief and why I truly believe that simplifying and slow living can be helpful for those of you who are going through a grief journey. Stay tuned. So typically New Year sucks when you are grieving, and if you're in grief, you probably understand and feel the same way. It is mostly just a marking of the passage of time without your person. I definitely feel that this year, and I kind of wanted to do something about it, do something a little bit proactive. So I am actually really excited about this first month of the new year, sharing this topic with you because it means so much to me. And I really truly believe that it is something that has helped my grief immensely. And I want to share that with you. So what is slow living? It is not about racing snails. It is not about moving to a farm in the country and having chickens. It can be that stuff, but it does not have to be that stuff. It tends to be kind of a trendy topic. And, you know, there are a lot of hipsters that are slow living and, you know, moving out in the country and kind of doing that thing. That is not necessarily what slow living means. You can adopt the idea of simplifying and slow living no matter where you live. Slow living is about finding your own rhythm. It is about figuring out what is important to you as a person based on what your values are and what you truly enjoy. It is about learning to appreciate and have gratitude for the small everyday things that you have in your life, even when you're grieving. And it's about giving ourselves the room and the space and the time that we need to breathe and grieve. Switching gears to slow living wasn't a natural thing for me. It's not something that happened overnight. It has been a very long process that I started actually before my daughter Libby passed away. I was the typical mom with 3 school-aged kids. I ran around like a nut trying to get everyone where they needed to go. I was still and still am working full-time. I was the chauffeur, I was the cook, I was the alarm clock, I was the housekeeper, and I was still trying to take care of myself and figure out how to exercise and eat well and do all of the healthy things, and somewhat still trying to have a social life. And basically all of my needs got put on the back burner, and I basically just spent my life running on that treadmill, never feeling like I was getting anywhere, and honestly not really enjoying what I had in my life. Obviously, after you lose people, you learn to appreciate what you had so much more, and I definitely do. And let me be the first one to say that if the choice was going back to being crazy busy and having my daughter back, wouldn't even have to hesitate for a second. Obviously, I would go back and have my daughter back in a heartbeat. But that is not going to happen, and I had to realize that that wasn't going to happen. So I kind of allowed myself to shift my mindset and basically pull out of the rat race, pull out of comparing myself to other people, comparing my life to other people, And I'll explain kind of what I did to do that. And it started with me with minimalism. I started watching The Minimal Mom on YouTube and a couple other minimalism channels that I came across. And then I just sort of, and this was before Libby died, I just started going on a rampage. Like, I've always been kind of a clean freak and never really had like the hoarder collector kind of mentality. So it wasn't a huge shift for me. I just really amped it up because I was living at that time in a 5-bedroom house. I had 3 kids and a stepson. So there were 4 kids in the house and me and my second husband. And there's just stuff, there's just clutter that builds up. So I tried really hard to get rid of as much as I could. And I was kind of in that process when Libby died. And of course, after Libby died, everything changed for me. I feel like I almost became like a completely different person. And if you've experienced a deep loss, I'm sure you understand how that feels. As far as the simple living and simplifying, after Libby died, I kind of didn't have a choice with a lot of it. I ended up getting divorced from my second husband, and since Libby was gone, I had one son who was graduating from college, who was living at home, but then was going to not be living at home. And then my other son was graduating from high school, and he had told me that he wasn't planning on living with me after he graduated from high school. So I overnight became a mom with 3 kids at home and a stepson and a husband to a single mom with 2 kids who were planning on leaving the house. So I became a single empty nester essentially it ended up being 7 months after Libby died. And that was a huge shift. It literally was my world turning upside down. So what I ended up doing, I had watched tiny house shows forever, and I was kind of fascinated by tiny houses. And there's actually a tiny house community near where I live. So I decided to move to a tiny house, and that is where I am now. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. I'm not saying that people need to move to a tiny house. That was just the decision for me. And my point here is that I had to get rid of everything, pretty much. I just went on a binge. I got rid of so much stuff, and it was so transformational is the word for it. It kind of shifted my whole perspective on what I actually needed in my life and how much material clutter we just collect that then does nothing but make a mess and clutter up our lives. So I kind of went whole hog into the minimalism, and then through that, I kind of became aware of more of the just simplifying and the slow living mindset. I started with baby steps. When I was in therapy after my daughter died, one of the things that they had me do was a gratitude journal at night where I had to write down 3 things each day that I was grateful for, no matter how small they were. So I kind of started there and worked on that idea of gratitude. And then I just started looking around at things that I did every day that I could take time to stop and appreciate. So things like making my coffee every morning and just sitting and enjoying that first cup of coffee, or taking time to stop and watch a sunrise or a sunset. I drive to work every day as a teacher, and from my tiny house now where I drive, the sun is usually down and it's dark when I leave my house, but then the sun rises as I'm on my drive, and it is so beautiful. And I don't know if I hadn't shifted my mindset, if I would have taken the time to actually notice that. But it's all about taking time to figure out what you want out of life and what you appreciate. I can tell you, I always thought I was a person who wanted to get out of my hometown and go become someone, like make a ton of money and travel the world and do all these crazy things. And I've realized that that is not me. And I've talked about this before in my videos. Like, I am happiest when I'm here in my house and I'm alone, and I've got my fireplace on, and I'm cuddled up under a blanket on my sofa, and I'm reading a book. That is those are some of my happiest times. I like doing Netflix TV show binges on my couch. Do I do that all the time? No, but I really enjoy doing that. I like watching movies. I like taking a walk around my neighborhood and just spending a few minutes kind of listening to the sounds of the nature. I don't go do it to like get sweaty and, get super fit and ripped. I do it because I know it's good to get outside and breathe fresh air and just kind of connect with nature for a second and realize there's more out there than just in my house. Thing is, it is not just me. I have this anecdotal evidence about how I have learned to appreciate this way of living, but science backs it up too. There are a host of studies and lots of psychologists that say that embracing this mentality of slow living and simplifying can be good for your mental health. It can be genuinely good for grief and depression because it gives your brain space to feel what it needs to feel and the time to feel what it needs to feel without the distraction of going and going and going and going. So if any of this sounds good to you and you'd like to learn more about slow living, I am going to be having a series of videos this month that talk about different topics in this area. And I hope that you will find them as helpful as I have. And if nothing else, if you are riding that grief roller coaster and experiencing those grief tsunamis that I talk about, why not give it a try? Why not try slowing down a little bit? So some things that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to look down at my list here so that I don't forget, but we're going to be talking about things like decluttering and eating well, possibly cooking from scratch, because I've been embracing a lot of like depression era cooking and kind of cooking things homemade from scratch instead of going out. We're going to talk about motion and movement, not really difficult exercise. If that's your jam, that's amazing. I am jealous of you, but just moving your body in healthy ways. We're going to talk about memory keeping and remembering your loved one and setting aside time for that memorialization of your lost loved one. We'll talk about nature and getting out into nature, digital detoxing, and kind of backing off on the social media and the comparison trap to other people. We're going to talk about quality over quantity and things, embracing leisure and figuring out what actually brings you joy and what doesn't. Because sometimes you think the things that you're working towards that are going to bring you joy won't really do that. And you might find that you enjoy things that are a lot more simple than you thought. Wardrobe simplifying. I have a teeny tiny closet, so I had to get rid of the majority of my wardrobe. So I'm going to share a little bit about how I did that and how simplifying my wardrobe has actually helped immensely in my day-to-day life. And also reducing your environmental impact and kind of being stewards of the earth and the world, because at least for me, that makes me feel like I'm doing something beneficial to help and not take up so much wasteful space on this planet. So those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about. I hope that they sound interesting to you. And of course, I am going to be weaving in how all of these things can help you with your grief and how they helped me with my grief. So that will definitely be a part of it as well. I'm not changing my channel. I'm not talking about grief. I am sharing these specific series of videos with you because they have helped me with my grief so much. And they have helped to bring back those small moments of joy that I was missing for so long in the early stages of my grief. And I'm hoping that they can do the same to you. If nothing else, I hope to teach you that it is okay to try to find the joy in things. You deserve that. You shouldn't feel guilty about it, even though that's kind of the natural state to feel guilty about trying to move forward. But it is actually a benefit. It is something that you can look forward to if you're not there yet. And it can make such a huge difference to have hope that things eventually can get better and get to the point where your life is not completely sucking. That is where we are headed. If you are interested in this, I hope that you will join me in these videos. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. If there are any topics that you want me to talk about in videos, or if there's anything that you are specifically looking forward to, I would love if you could drop that in the comments for me. It also helps so that my video gets out to more people. If you haven't subscribed, if you would consider subscribing if any of this sounds interesting. And I will, as always, be doing my morning coffee live streams, so you can always still catch those, where I'm always talking grief, either with myself or my family members or other experts. And I have amazing experts lined up for the next few months, so I'm really excited about that as well. Here is to a new year of setting a new pace and taking things one simple step at a time, and remembering that it is totally okay to slow down and to just be. Sending you love and hugs as always. Have a great week. I'll see you in the next one.